Ron.
Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag? And after that, we would like to do a moment of silence for Elaine Blumgart, is retired domestic violence team volunteer and a longtime volunteer here in town, and Derek Nelson, who is the principal of Westfield High School. You may have seen in the news he was a bone marrow donor, passed away at a very young age. So we're going to have a moment of silence for Elaine Blumgart and Derek Nelson after we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2019 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2018, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams? Here. Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick? Mr. McGehee? Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time and conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
Second.
Ms. Adams, Mr. Daffis, Mayor DeLuca.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'll run through the agenda real quick, and we'll get on with the meeting. First, we're going to have a proclamation for Autism Awareness Month for April of 2019. Second, we'll have our first public comment session. If anyone would like to speak to us, we ask you to come up, give us your name and address. We have two ordinances on final passage. The first is we will be revising various departments within the Department of Public Works and establishing the position of Supervisor of Public Works. Second, we will be voting on a budget appropriation limits and establishing a cap bank pursuant to state law. That's part of our budgeting process. So in those two instances, we'll read this statement, ask you if anyone would like to speak on either of those. You come up at that time and you can share your concerns with us. Then we have an introduction of a new ordinance, and this is requiring a zoning permit for projects in the township under our zoning law. We have two discussion items. The first is designating or soliciting for proposals to conduct an area in need of rehabilitation study on the Irvington Avenue Business District. And the second is consideration of two resolutions, one, a green building policy, and two, sustainable land use pledge as part of our participation with Sustainable Jersey. We have 10 items on our consent agenda, but we're pulling off item number 6 because we need to correct some of the language there. But the other 9 items were authorizing a contract for heating and cooling systems, maintenance, we're approving bills and claims, approving emergency and temporary appropriations, establishing a sewer rate for this year, setting up a fund for the Maplewood Cares Trust Fund, setting up a fund for the Junior Police Academy Trust Fund, We're awarding contract for the hauling and disposal of leaves and approving the open and close session minutes of the April 2nd, 2019 meetings. Number 6, we're going to request permission for a dedication by Ryder to establish a youth advisory committee, MAPSO Safe Rides Trust Fund, and we'll discuss that more because we need to change some of the language there. We'll have our second public comment. We'll have reports from the administrators, reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. So our first order of business is the Autism Awareness Month, and I invite those of you who are here for that to join me up at the microphone here. Okay, well, thank you all for coming out. So I have a proclamation, Autism Awareness Month 2019. Whereas autism is a complex disorder that interferes with social interactions, nonverbal communication, repetitive behaviors, and speech. It affects brain development in the early stages of life. And whereas autism spectrum disorder is now diagnosed in 1 of every 59 births, and almost 1 in 37 boys and 1 in 151 girls, making it the fastest growing developmental disability in the United States, whereas more than 3.5 million Americans live with autism spectrum disorder, and whereas autism affects all ethnic and socioeconomic groups, and in New Jersey, the rates are the highest in the states and have tripled recently, and that whereas early intervention affords the best opportunity to support healthy development and deliver benefits across the lifespan. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Autism Awareness Month in the Township of Maplewood, and urge all residents to participate in autism awareness activities in order to become better educated on the subject of autism spectrum disorders. And we want to thank some of the parents for coming out tonight. If you'd like to say a few words.
I'd like to thank Mayor DeLuca and the Township Committee. It's great to see you all, and we really appreciate all the time and effort that you have provided here. The town, we've lived here, we just celebrated 29 years in Maplewood, and the bookstore has been around now for 10 years, which, as you know, was developed so that we could have a vocational program for people with autism. What is so rewarding is that this town is so welcoming and inclusive and really does value all different kinds of people, and specifically people with autism, and it makes it really quite a wonderful place to live and to work and to be. So for that, we thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you want to say? Go ahead.
I want to thank the Township Committee in particular for setting that tone that Ellen described so well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor DeLuca. I just want to congratulate you on your award. We've been friends for quite a long time. My daughter Kathy has been a member of this community since 1991. My daughter Maureen was born here, went to Columbia High School, did a great job, stellar scholar, making a lot of money in Paris. But Maplewood has been so good to Kathy. I want to thank everyone from the police department. We had several emergencies, the fire department, and some school district personnel who have provided a great foundation for Kathy. And sadly, Mary, my wife, she passed away. And autism is very brutal. It is really hard, often on the mother. And I'm actually having a dedication for a tree in Maplecrest Park where I used to go with Kathy and Maureen on the 2-year anniversary of her passing. And I hope to get some important people in autism at this event to say that Maplewood has been nothing but the greatest community for my daughter. And I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Okay, we're now at the public comment session. If anyone would like to address the Township Committee, this would be it. You can come up and just give us your name and address.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Paula Jean Reese, and I live at 67B Meadowbrook Place. My daughter Nico and I just purchased our home in June, so we've been here the end of June in Maplewood.
Welcome.
Which, thank you, it's wonderful. It's been great for us, like this short period of time. We've been in the Soma communities for like 3 years now. We started in South Orange, and then we purchased recently. What I've noticed is that we live on Meadowbrook Place, and at the corner is Boyden. I have a diagram out if you want to hand it to you.
You can give it to us. Just watch the wire down there.
Yeah, only because you're on TV, so we want to make sure they hear you.
We park in across the street at the shared parking lot for the pool, and we have to walk, every day we walk to the corner to try and cross the street. There are people who are coming from Springfield Avenue towards Elmwood who occasionally are very kind enough to stop so that we can get across the street, probably because I'm walking with my 7-year-old. But when they stop, that's only because there's a red light at the corner of Elmwood. What happens is that they'll stop, we can get to the middle, but then people who don't normally stop at that red light and then turn, they're flying around the corner and they don't necessarily stop. Every now and then, we've got maybe 3 times since we've been there that maybe someone has stopped to allow us to safely get across the street to the parking lot. So I guess I was just trying to see whether or not there is something that we can do as a community to make it safer for children, parents, dog walkers, anybody who needs to get across the street, because it's a very busy block and the cars are just flying by. I understand that that corner may be hard. I see there's something that says stop on red, and some people do, but some people are right on top of that line and they block it. I also notice sometimes when I'm coming from Elmwood driving, they block Meadowbrook Place so you can't even turn in. So no one's really adhering to any signage or anything. I don't know if there is something that can be done to make it safer for us, like a crosswalk there, or the what do they call it, like I guess a ladder, or the staggered lines that you see that I see around the community that would help us be able to get across the street, along with the sign that some people will pay attention to that. So I guess I'm just appealing to make it safer for everyone on that street, because it's been really, really challenging. We love the community, we love our neighbors, but I mean, when grandma comes to visit us, it's hard for her to get across the street. People do not stop, and it's just a concern.
So the bad news is this: we have looked at that because we've had other members of your community there express the same desire to have a crosswalk there. Mm-hmm. We've looked at it and studied it. The engineer does not feel that it is a safe area to put a crosswalk. No one actually should be crossing there. What we advise people is to walk to the corner where the street light is, or to walk down in front of the New Jersey Transit building where the crosswalk is, the mid-block crosswalk with a sign. The very problem that you're describing is the problem of putting a crosswalk there. We can't control the flow coming down. You don't have a line of sight when you make that turn.
So what about if it's not that first corner of Meadowbrook,
we've looked at both. We've looked at both. It's just not an area where we could safely put a crosswalk. Once we put a crosswalk, what we're saying to people is that we believe professionally that it is a safe area to cross. We do not believe that. We believe it is an unsafe area to cross. Okay. And people should, and I know people park there and live in the apartment, in the condos there. Mm-hmm. And it just seems that, folks want to walk down Meadowbrook, but we're urging people to go either to the corner where there's a signalized light and there's a walk beacon, or to the other area where in front of the office building there, where there is a crosswalk.
But people, even if you go to the corner, the people that are supposed to stop
Yes.
and then turn, they don't. I see
That's
this
an
every
issue,
day. They
yeah.
come flying around the corner. So in essence, they're actually traveling sometimes more than the 25 miles per hour because they are coming around there.
So that we can take a look at, because that's a corner, and maybe it's because there's an arrow there. You know, it's an arrow for the turns. So maybe we could have because we have that as a signalized intersection with the crosswalk, we can have our engineer take a look at that, and maybe there's retiming of the arrow if people press the button there. So we can take a look at that. The other thing is, you talked about blocking the entrance there. We can put a sign up that says, do not block the intersection.
Right.
Unfortunately, you put a lot of signs up and people
They're not reading it.
are in a hurry. They don't really care. They want to get in front of as close to they can to the next person. So oftentimes they do block it, and which causes a bigger problem because you're waiting there to make the left and you got cars behind you.
That causes a jam up too.
And it jams up right back to the light. But all you need is one person who's clueless, and that happens often. But we can talk to him about putting a do not block intersection sign up there.
Okay, can I ask you one question? There's the light that's actually right there where this abandoned, I guess, a station was there. There's a light there. Is there any way to turn that light on, which is similar to the light that's at the end of Springfield?
No.
No?
That was a first aid light. That was just an emergency light in case they were rolling out the rigs.
But I'm saying, because it looks like what's going on at the firehouse that's at the other end near Springfield. There's a place where it says stop here on red.
Right.
And then past the opening of the fire station, there's another stoplight at the corner of Springfield.
Right.
So I was just wondering if there was two lights that were red at the same time, people can get across the street. That's only what I'm saying.
No.
So it's a light, it's just going to just be
It's probably going to come down because it's not going to be, that extra light by the old first aid squad is not we're not going to be using that anymore for that. So the safest way, and I know it's extra steps, is either to walk to the corner, which is the absolute safest, or to walk in front of the office building, where we've had some success.
Walk down,
but
they come
also
across and they come back down.
I understand because you have to walk, but it's the safest way.
Really?
And particularly for your daughter, it's essentially walking there, you're risking it. And we've told people before, we've looked at it, a couple different engineers have looked at it, and everyone comes up with the same caution that it's just not a safe place to put an intersection.
Okay, one last question. So when I drive through Maplewood, like on down Elmwood, where there's continuous crosswalks, these dotted crosswalks where there's no lights, and also on Prospect, and also now on, is it Parker?
Yes, we just put those there.
There is numerous dotted crosswalks everywhere with.
Those are at intersections, and that's a straight line of cars. I mean, a straight line of travel. So your sight visibility is something you can see the next corner coming up. That was part of our Safe Streets to Schools program. We, painted all that. It's just,
Had other requests in different locations around town for what's called, not at an intersection, it's called a mid-block crosswalk.
Right.
Like there was one requested for, where am I? Right over here, that we had the same response to because it comes across Valley into the park from Park. And it's just not safe because there's not enough sight distance. And just because and it's the same thing. People come around the curve very quickly, and you can't put a crosswalk there. We're essentially telling people you can cross here, and our engineer is our expert in that, and we had him look at that. And I think last year when you were here, we had it. Look at it, and it's not warranted. They do a warrant analysis, whether or not it's something they would recommend based on they're putting their license on the line when they do so. we can't just put a mid-block crosswalk somewhere without open ourselves and taxpayers up to liability if we just put them wherever we want. So if
Right.
we don't have a professional, licensed professional telling us that that's a safe place to put it, then we can't, but then we have to go by his judgment, which we also trust because he wouldn't license at risk.
Right.
And that's what it does, not to mention people's. I almost got hit today in Summit in a crosswalk and I was halfway across the street. So
Right.
they're not always safe, as we know,
Mhm.
but in this case, it's even less safe to put a crosswalk there. But as I said, the extra steps,
Right.
but can't encourage jaywalking or crossing at an unsafe place.
Okay. So I just thought it would slow people down as well because they're
I mean-
flying around that corner like
That we
this.
can, we can have them take a
Yeah,
look
that
at
part we'll
that.
have them look at for sure. We have a meeting tomorrow with Engineering and Public Works and we'll talk about it then. Sorry, it's not the answer you'd hope for.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your
All right.
time.
Thank
And,
you.
and
And
welcome to Maplewood again.
It's nice to have you.
Yes. All right. Thanks. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Evening.
Deborah Ford, 47 Meadowbrook Place. You already heard the whole story, so I don't have to go back into it again. What I do want to say is it became very apparent that crosswalk at New Jersey Transit does not in any way help the folks in our community. It became apparent during the bad weather, when it's icy, when it rains, to ask our community members to walk all the way up to New Jersey Transit. Their car is right across the street. They have to walk up to New Jersey Transit, cross, and walk all the way back down to their car. Or to stand at a light and wait for the light to change. It's frustrating. There is already a precedent set for cars, and I understand it. I understand coming around a bend to ask drivers to all of a sudden come to a hard stop. But that precedent was set when the first aid squad was present there, and they were pulling their trucks and vehicles in and out. It was common practice to have to stop. So we're frustrated. We need some help with this issue, but that New Jersey crosswalk did not help us in any way whatsoever. And it's very apparent when it's icy, snow, rain. We're taxpayers. So
I hear you.
Thank you.
that's the frustration right there.
We understand.
Although icy and snow and all that would make it even less safe to cross at that.
Yes, but to ask folks, elderly, folks with kids, to walk all the way up to New Jersey Transit, perhaps with book bags, groceries, it did not help us at all. That's the frustration. Respectfully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay, we'll close the first public comment. There will be another one later on in the meeting. We have an ordinance on final passage.
Mr. Mayor, item number 7, ordinance number 2954-19. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the Township of Maplewood entitled Administration of Government. This ordinance will revise the various divisions within the Department of Public Works into 6 divisions and establish that the supervisor of the Department of Public Works shall perform the duties of the Director of Public Works in his or her absence.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. We'll get a motion. Ms. Adams?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We have another ordinance on final.
Mr. Mayor, also on final, item number 8, ordinance number 2955-19. Exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 48-4-45.14.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this issue, on this ordinance? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. I'll move this ordinance be adopted as a whole, and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We have an introduction of a new ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, item number 9, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance number 2956-19, an ordinance requiring the issuance of a zoning permit within the Township of Maplewood for projects under the jurisdiction of the Maplewood zoning law. This ordinance will enable the Maplewood Building Department to issue zoning permits for any projects undertaken pursuant to the Maplewood zoning law that are not subject to the requirements of the Uniform Commercial Code.
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on May 7th.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have 2 discussion items. The first is the Irvington Avenue Business District. The Committee on Entrepreneurship and Economic Development is recommending that the Township Committee consider declaring that area as an area in need of rehabilitation. And what we're suggesting is that we authorize solicit proposals by planners to conduct the study that is necessary. We've lost 2 anchor businesses there, one the credit union and the second Valley National Bank. And those are big lots, and we've been looking at some possibilities of other kinds of development there, and it would facilitate the process if it was an area in need of rehabilitation as opposed to the underlying zoning, which is neighborhood business.
Mayor, could you explain why we're studying as an area in need of rehab and rehabilitation instead of redevelopment?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same study. The rehabilitation designation is it doesn't give us eminent domain power. Any kind of tax incentive would be different. It wouldn't be 30 years. It would be 5 years. But pretty much other than that, we'd still be able to work with a developer to assemble property, to craft a plan, which would have to go through the planning board. One thing I would suggest is that when we get if we're going to move forward and get proposals, that when we negotiate the actual area, that we include the parking lot of the church, St. Andrew Kim Church, which is actually in a residential zone, but is adjacent to that commercial zone there. So we would outline in working, exactly the block and lot numbers. But it just gives us more ability. And of course, the most important thing is either in a rehabilitation or redevelopment, it allows us to negotiate with developers and work out that process. Yep. So I would move that we authorize the administrator to solicit proposals to conduct an area in need of rehabilitation on the Irvington Avenue Business District.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. The second item has to do with our Sustainable Jersey certification. They are suggesting that we adopt 2 resolutions. One is a green building policy, and the second is the Sustainable Land Use Pledge Resolution. We do both of these. We practice this anyway, and by just adopting these, we would get additional points through Sustainable Jersey, and it would just, I think, also set the tone as we talk about more development in the town and land use in the town. So I would move that we consider these, we put these on the agenda for May 7th. Okay, so I will get them to you in Word. Yes, I do. I found them. Okay. Yes, I knew. You tell her I'm doing her a solid. Okay, can we get a motion on the consent agenda removing item number 6?
So moved. Okay. Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, and Mr. Daffis, you want to take on number 6 and correct that?
Sure, Mayor, thank you. Number 6 is resolution number 84-19, requesting permission for dedication by rider for YouthNet MAPSO Safe Rides Trust Fund as required by NJSA 40A 5-29. The amendment here that is necessary is to substitute YouthNet with YAC, or YAC, which stands for the Youth Advisory Committee. This is an initiative that came out of the Youth Advisory Committee, not to be confused with YouthNet, which also works with youth. So I would move the resolution as amended.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the Township Committee? There's no one here in the room, so we will close that second public hearing. We did receive a report from the tax collector, administrative reports. Ms. Viveros?
Thank you, Mayor. I submitted everyone a analysis of the newly proposed building foreman position within the Community Services Department in the cultural division, if you will. I feel that with this reorganization, with having a actual building foreman at a set salary, let's say a starting salary of $40,000 would be a lot more competitive. In addition, having a 29-hour employee at a consistent schedule, and then 2 floaters. I think we could do a lot more with this, and I think it's an opportunity to continue the work that's being done there right now, which is very busy with all the construction that's going on. So I just wanted to clarify some of the points that we made. I met with both the division manager and the director to go over this, and we were all aligned. So I just wanted to bring this discussion if you have any additional questions about it.
It works for me.
Do we not have a designation before?
We had a building manager position, and we had 2 29-hour employees, and then the 2 floaters. Essentially, there is some savings there, but I believe with raising the salary to $40,000, I believe it's in the 30s now. I think it would be a little more competitive, and you'd get somebody who's possibly in the building maintenance industry, and that would help a little bit in running the show there, if you will.
Right, and this person will be responsible for all things building management related.
Right, not just the Woodland, it would be the Bergdorf, the community center. So this position is an overall, it's a building foreman, so there's building attendants over at the Heart,
Terrific.
So,
and this person would not be responsible. Their duties would not fall in the scheduling of events, in the development of events,
No.
or anything like that.
No, we have an events coordinator who does that, who does the scheduling, and we have the cultural division manager who does the outreaching, if you will.
Right. And one final thing, were there conversations with all the related parties in the division about this proposal?
Yes.
And so they would understand this new role, this new...
Yes.
Great.
And we worked out a new job description just to sort of craft it in that way. So
Where would they be housed?
over at the Woodland. I mean, so it's centrally located. A lot goes on there during the weekends, but certainly it's someone that could travel throughout the town, obviously, and look over the other building attendants.
I support it. The only suggestion I have is to take gender out of it and call it a 4-person.
Will do.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the kinds of things we were talking about with the salary freeze, in that when you came and asked us to replace the building manager, we asked you to go back and rethink the organization. Do we really need the person? And you were creative, you and the division and department heads coming back to us with some solution which actually reduces the head count.
Yes.
So thank you. So we need to get a motion. I will move that we move forward with the hiring of the building 4-person. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Aren't you going to tell us when the farmer market starts? Farmers market?
The first Monday in June,
All right.
and
No.
we are heavily recruiting, we are soliciting, so we're looking forward to a new season. And I have the new assistant who's been obviously taking over this, so
Great. Well, you have big tomato buckets to fill. Yes. That was, an absolute report we got from the administrator every meeting we had here. So.
I do have to say, though, we do have plenty of room. The lot is bigger, so if there is anyone who's looking for space, especially a local merchant, and last year what we did at least once or twice, we would do a courtesy to local vendors, and that's still ongoing. So if there's a new business in town and we have the doing business with Maplewood, we'll bring that up. I think it's a good opportunity, so let's take it for what it is. And now with some new things happening around that neighborhood, I think it's really coming together.
I can give you some organizational, as in where local businesses can sign up for a free table, Sly Reply,
Okay.
link so that they can see what's available and they can just go on and sign on themselves. Charge, and I can also send you some vendors that,
Yeah, that'd be great. It's a really great lot, plenty of space to park, so.
Pop up.
So just on, since we're on that, and Mr. Desiderio asked if I was going to report on this, and I said no, but because it's really not done yet. But since we're talking about that, today we had a site visit to our new pop-up park, which we're actually going to be using the name that we coined whenever we designed this thing, when Zion Breen did the drawings and all that. It's called Yale Corner.
Oh, I like that.
And so that was when I pulled out the thing from the board from years ago, it said Yale Corner, so we're going to call it the Yale Corner. And we were there today looking at the paving we're going to get, the lights, the work we're going to do. So there may be a shot at getting some of it functional for Mayfest.
Perfect.
So
Well done.
and we signed the papers yesterday, so we're moving forward.
Well done, all signed.
Okay, so thank you. Anything else from Ms. Viveros? Mr. Desiderio?
I have one item, Mayor, and I sent it to you, I think. And we've been working with 5 Highland Place on an easement with regard to the back, and they've also had a tax appeal. And I've been going back and forth because the attorney handling the tax appeal has continuously represented there was no lease for the property. And my recollection was that when the applicant came in to get his license reinstated, his ABC license reinstated, he made representations that the place was leased. In any event, Mr. Montero, who represented him with regard to the ABC matter, I raised it with him. He said, I also discussed the issue of the lease with my client, and he advises me that presently there is no lease, inasmuch as Mr. Campos is financially incapable of meeting its terms, and now he has agreed to become an employee of the restaurant. So I'm only bringing this to your attention because I think something else was brought to your attention before, and I just wanted you to know what's going on, so.
So the initial plan was a lease. There was a lease signing ceremony, and what happened was it didn't work, just as you heard. So the owner of the property is taking it on, and he is the principal owner, and Mr. Campos will be the, I think it will become, I don't want to put the wrong words. He told me, but I can't remember the name, but it's some executive chef or something to that order. So the building is, I think one of the reasons why we wanted the lease at the time was we were concerned that the individual, the owner, was going to get the license and not do anything with the building. I think we happened to be at a ribbon cutting on Saturday in the village. We took a walk over to look at the building. We did a tour. It's clearly going to open. I feel comfortable moving forward knowing that that relationship still exists between the building owner and Mr. Campos. So,
All right, like I said, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, that's all.
you all feel that way?
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
not I'll use it for my kitchen.
That's all I have.
It's the biggest kitchen hood in Maplewood. It's unbelievable.
Very impressive.
Anything else from Mr. Desiderio?
No. I'm sorry.
Ms. Fridson?
Couple things, Mayor.
Okay.
So the first thing I'm happy to report, we received final approval that we would be using the OEM building as a polling location. And That's something we jumped on when we took the building back with all the renovations. So there'll be definitely 2 polling districts in there, and it will relieve quite a bit of voter numbers from both Clinton School and the Maplewood Community Center. So we'll be doing, in conjunction with the county, a lot of advertisement so that the voters affected in those 2 districts know where their new polling location will be.
Sorry. That means this is gonna start with the June primary.
Correct.
We should take a walk through that building to be very clear about what we need for that to happen in June, because we have no sign on the building, we have nothing there. Well, that's the whole, but the thing is, I think that they're gonna name it 129 Boyden Avenue. So we're
OEM building, 129 Boyden Avenue.
So we'll do a field trip out there. That means we should put the electronic sign out there sometime in mid-May.
Absolutely. Just as we had done when we moved the polling location from the Maplewood Firehouse to Woodland.
Yeah, the difference is people knew the Woodland was there. People don't know that the OEM is there. So we're going to have to do some work. But, it's the whole flow of parking. Remember, we have those New Jersey Transit employees parking there during the day. So we're going to need signage to direct people to go all the way back in the building. So, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, all that ADA stuff. So maybe what we'll do is we'll have our engineer come and Public Works, so we'll just go through and make sure anything that we need to deal with. We don't want parking in the driveway off of Boyden because we want people pulling there to park. We want people to go into the pool parking lots. Okay.
Okay, we're having a lot of event planning meetings for our larger events. We have 6 of them that are coming up. And I always copy the Township Committee. If you're interested in attending, you're certainly, welcome to attend.
Thank you.
But we have 3 things on Springfield Avenue that are with the partnership, and I've scheduled all 3 of them, as you've seen already, for the same morning. Cafe applications are going out to all of our restaurateurs that are eligible. And my 4th item is liquor license renewals. We'll start to be talking about that. They're before June 30th. And now would be the time that I contact all the department heads to let us know property maintenance issues, anything. Now's your leverage time before anybody gets a renewal for 2019-2020 license, if there's things that need to be fixed up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fritzen? Okay. Oh, by the way, we should vigorously fight the tax appeal for that because okay. That was all his own creation. That was, I know. Elected official, Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things. On the senior services, I want to seriously commend Kathy Rowe from Two Towns for All Ages, Soma Two Towns for All Ages, who has put together a series of conversations for your life. Some of these are legal series, some of these are conversations, and the idea here is to get that conversation started, if it hasn't already, in your particular home, with your family, with your children, about your medical care, what happens later, getting all your legal documentation together. There are several programs already scheduled. On May 7th, Conversation of Your Life, Personal Values at the Woodland at 11:30 a.m. On May 15th, Guardianship, When is the Right Time, 7 p.m. at Maplewood Main Library. On May 30th, the Conversation Project, a toolkit for getting all of your best wishes and plans in order. June 17th and June 21st, we're partnering with Garden State Equality in 2 separate programs, Preparation for Aging, 1 to 3 p.m. at the Woodland, which will talk about power of attorneys, wills, and other legal issues that come up. And on June 21st, Sage Table, which is an intergenerational table, breaking bread together and talking about senior issues, senior isolation. And both of those programs on the 17th and 21st are also as part of our Pride programming for the month of June. So I'm really excited about all of that. And this flyer is available online. It is available on the SOMA Two Towns for All Ages website, and it should have made the most recent newsletter as well. From the Municipal Alliance, just to follow up, and Ms. Fritzen, you just jogged my memory about getting on our liquor licensees. I wanted to update the committee. As you recall, we received a recommendation from the Municipal Alliance through ADAPT about possibly requiring techniques on alcohol management training for all of our consumption licensees, something that they would have to certify annually, but only do the training biannually. And as you recommended, we sent out a letter about this proposal to all of our licensees, and we had a feedback session on April 3rd in this room. And it was actually a very good thing that we did that, because we found out that even though the New Jersey Beverage Association is recommending this training called TAM, Techniques on Alcohol Management, the New Jersey Restaurant Association already does this training and requires it of all restaurateurs. And we heard from some of our restaurateurs who were present that they have received the training. It's similar training. It would be redundant to recommend it again. But I will put it on the agenda for discussion on May 7th to see what the Municipal Alliance recommends that we do. We may just want to ask licensees to certify that they've attended one of these trainings, they and their staff. Also from the Municipal Alliance, I want to put out there, there's an ADAPT art contest, which is countywide. The deadline of the art contest is May 17th. There will be a reception on May 31st to unveil all the winners at the Bergdorf Community Room here in Maplewood. And the theme of the contest, which is open to middle schoolers and high school students countywide, is the following. Instead of doing drugs or contemplating alcohol use, I do the following. That is the art contest. Again, the deadline for that is May 17th, and the reception will be held on May 31st. From the Youth Advisory Committee, our students carry forward the Safe Rides program. They continue to raise money. The developer is working on a beta initial development of an app. And as you know, this evening we moved forward, adopted a resolution in favor of creating a trust fund for the money being raised. And we heard from the Municipal Alliance, Maplewood and South Orange, they will also be funding the program as a public safety measure, anti-drinking and driving measure. YAC is also very closely involved with the Green Team in helping us market our upcoming bag ordinance. So that's great. We have extra hands to help us across town in that regard. From the Maplewood Village Alliance, I just want to tell the world out there that the Maplewood Village Alliance is experiencing a lot of growth and change. We've got a couple new exciting board members. We have Micah from Paper Hat, and we have Amy Howlett joining us as new board members. There are new committees for recruitment and merchant committees being created as part of the board. And so there's this new vision to move forward and think about doing things a little bit differently, which is great. And we really owe Deb Yohannan, the executive director, the manager of the MVA, a lot of credit for starting those conversations and moving those initiatives forward. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Patel of Village Coffee, who will be opening yet another business in Maplewood, Chickpea, which will be moving into the former Abril Cucina space Chickpea, not to be confused with the chain Chickpea in the city and in some bigger towns in New Jersey. This is a separate, though it's the same Mediterranean menu, hummus, falafel sandwiches, and all that delicious stuff, which I'm sure is going to be very popular in Maplewood Village. We do have our new parking map, which we will be marketing soon. As you recall, a long time ago, back in the early fall of last year, we started looking at creating a new parking map to market underutilized free parking in and around Maplewood Village to help with our traffic management flow there. And the new parking map is available, and we're going to start doing some video series to educate people about parking in Maplewood Village. Also, under the MVA umbrella, the MVA has put together their extended design review committee, which will begin working with our designated developer at 104 Baker to begin designing the building there. And next week, we have scheduled a walkthrough through the village with our contractor, who's going to return to finish the paver project. And we will be communicating with the public what the scheduling of that second and final stage of the paving is going to be. Finally, a lot of committees I'm on, a lot of work. The Participatory Budgeting Committee met to review the 21 submissions that we received from the public. And we received some really exciting ideas, dog parks and ping pong tables and, making some of our parks a little bit more family friendly. Most of the ideas were approved as eligible and compliant with the rules, and our goal is to create a ballot to submit out there in mid-May and start the, so that people can have 2 weeks to vote and announce the winners of the public project idea on June 1st. We're going to place the name of the proposal on the ballot with a very small description, and each person gets to vote only once, but for up to 2 project ideas. The ballots will be available as the applications were available. In other words, in person here with Ms. Fritz in the clerk's office, and also online.
Yeah, we have an online ballot.
Can't go on the primary ballot, huh?
Yeah, there's a sample online ballot that I just sent over to Sonia. It'll get bounced to the review committee to see if it's good to go. Once it is, the rest of the TC will see it. And then there'll be a...
I just wanted to make sure it was available to those not online.
Yeah, it'll be available in print too. We're also translating it into Spanish and Haitian Creole.
Right, and I'll talk about it more again at the May 7th meeting, at which point we'll be ready to go live with that, right? Great, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mayor, I want to give a shout out to Amy Howlett and Deborah.
Engler.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a senior moment. On the pop-up general store, pop-up kid shop, we did a ribbon cutting for on Saturday. It's at 1875 Springfield Avenue, and it's open there for a month, although many of us hope that they will stay there longer. So we urge everybody to patronize them so they'd be motivated to do so. I also attended the National Main Street Conference in Seattle a couple weeks ago, and I do have some information that I will share with my colleagues via email once I get around to getting the PDFs together and sending them. But I took an interesting walking tour for a half day about balancing development, preservation, and sustainability. Walking tour during the Lake Pine corridor section of Seattle, which is historic auto row. Features human-scaled architecture and a variety of unique storefront businesses. But the city's, everyone may know about Seattle's residential boom and the Amazon headquarters and Goot, everybody, all these Costco and all these major companies. that have sort of felt like it was threatening the integrity of the neighborhoods in the different business districts. So this one was an interesting movement that the city leaders did in anticipation of a need for more residential density. They passed an ordinance to place a development overlay zone in the area. This would encourage density, but keep the historic feel of the corridor. Had some mixed results, and with those, the tour was really interesting to see which residential went on top of some of these buildings in the earlier stages of the overlay zone, and then how they amended that. For example, they put the residential could go above, but it had to be the first building. They only required 2 feet setback from the first, and that was definitely too compared to setback, and so that walking and pedestrian wise, you're not seeing, as we have with some of our the setbacks per foot for residential going up over a certain height. Anyway, it was interesting to kind of get a hands-on tour about that. We also talked about parking, of course, mid-century design, and the debate over whether or not to take historic buildings that were in mid-century, covered up to look more modern. So now, so you had like 1920s buildings where they put the facades, covered the facades because they were old, historic, and run down in order to compete with like strip malls that were going up. And those are now sort of historic. So there's an argument whether you are at all the way to the historic building or you restore the mid-century modern stuff on the yeah. And then also just there was a lot of things, including building a strong local economy and the importance of local place-based economic development for long-term success, and trends in consumer preferences, all that kind of stuff. So I will share with members of the Township Committee and whoever you want me to share it with in the administration. In pleasure, just more information. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, great. I have 3 quick items. One, welcome to Maplewood is Tuesday, April 30th, 6:30 to 8:30 at the library. Please come out and find out more about your town and how you can get involved and how you can utilize our services, and let us know if you have any concerns. On Thursday, May 2nd, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we'll have our doing business with the Township of Maplewood session here, and this is an opportunity for us to connect with local business people. And lastly, at our last meeting, we had a number of residents from Hilton Avenue come. I'm happy to announce that we did an inspection last week. The health official found that there was a health hazard there, and on Monday morning, the DPW went over and cleaned out the garage, the exterior, and boarded up the house. So, done.
Because you're done, right?
I'm done.
Discussing the farmer's market, since we're passing a plastic bag down, are we, have we talked to the vendors, or we're definitely, I feel like I asked this before,
Yes.
but I'm getting.
And we are going to talk to them and tell them no plastic bags.
Because the Summit Farmers Market has banned it,
Yeah.
independent of the city.
I attended the New Jersey Council on Farmers and Communities meeting a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I let our vendors know that it was in the works. I didn't want to give them a draft ordinance until we had something done. Once we had something done, I highlighted what they needed to know and sent out an email. I'm going to send out another follow-up because we're getting new vendors that weren't on that list prior to that email, so.
Right, we just don't want them using plastic.
Yeah, a lot of them participate already in Jersey City, Hoboken, so they're already
Yeah,
working
and
with these
some-
bans, so.
In fact, we're going to get that message out for all of our public events. When you have your meetings on these events, nobody should be using plastic bags on township property, including streets, like
Right,
at our
I-
fairs and stuff.
I informed the Maple Woodstock Committee at my meeting with them that their vendors couldn't, so.
Okay?
Okay.
We got a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I am. We're trying to get done by 8:30. We did it. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.